first, the latest local and international news with Sky News contributor Prue McSween. Prue, let's start with local news. The federal government has admitted that the agency in charge of fitting GPS ankle bracelets on convicted pedophiles and murderers didn't actually have the devices. Small point. It's now updated recent laws on Monday to grant enforcement powers to immigration authorities. This follows the High Court ruling deeming indefinite detention unlawful. So we've got 138 individuals so far released from immigration detention. The PM and the Home Affairs Minister, Prue, look inept here.
They are inept, aren't they, Rita? They wonder why they're doing so badly in the polls. It's because we've woken up to them. They are asleep at the wheel. They are so inexperienced and they're contemptuous of the things that matter to us. Safety, security, the fact that we should be able to determine who can stay in this country. We do not want criminals to be able to appeal and then have the benefits of our welfare system and put the rest of the citizens on edge and wondering if they're going to be raped or pillaged or murdered. Who knows? You know, it's a responsibility of governments to keep communities safe, and Albanese's government has done a giant fail on this matter.
And one of these characters has gone AWOL already, so hopefully they locate him shortly. Now, you mentioned the polls, and the latest news poll shows support for the government and the PM falling further. Labor's primary vote is down another 4%, now to 31%, and in two-party preferred terms, it's now 50-50 between Labor and the coalition. The honeymoon is well and truly over, Prue.
Sure is, Rita, and you know we're all waking up to Albanese. We saw his performance in the lead up to the election, where some of us had a lot of doubts about his ability to be across detail, and he seemed to be parroting someone else's words. I didn't feel he was sincere and had the passion to really do the job properly. And now the game's up. You know, we saw it during the Voice, where he had a total tin ear. His hubris overrode any judgment, and he's never been able to recover from that. And we've seen a bank of ministers who really have no experience and not in touch with what the average middle-class worker wants. And we're seeing now in that crucial traditional Labor voting area of a demographic where they've just abandoned him because they see that they're not working for the worker. They, you know, are introducing IR laws that are going to kill off jobs. Productivity is down the toilet. The cost of living, the fact that all of us are looking down the back of our lounges to find $2 coins to try and get by. Whoever thought that we'd be in this situation? It's because this government has been too focused on virtue signalling and not what matters to us.
Now, Parliamentary Committee reviewing the 2022 federal election has proposed increased representation for the ACT and Northern Territory, suggesting the number of senators for both areas should rise from 2 to 4 senators. Prue, I haven't heard a worse idea since, I don't know, defund the police. This would be utter madness.
Utter madness, Rita, and dangerous, because we know that they're going to try and stack it with lefties, greenies, so that they have the ultimate power. The Labor government has the ultimate power in the Senate and will be able to push through really crook and bad policy. And we're seeing it already with this, you know, this Prime Minister who said he would never deal with the Greens. Well, he's just done it with, you know, the water and water rights, and he, you know, will continue, particularly after this next election, where there's a very strong chance that he's going to be in minority and he's going to need the Greens to stay in power. So it's so dangerous. We have inept politicians. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is very scary, and I just think that, you know, politicians that we have representing us now are so inept that you've got to say, wow, we don't need any more of them on the payroll.
I know Labor types are already talking about minority government in the next term, but, you know, they'll be lucky to be in any sort of power the way they're going. They have not had a sweet run at all, except from the media, because for a good 12 months there, if not more, they have just had a golden run from the media. But people are feeling the pain. The cost of living is something you just cannot deny. Those costs are increasing at a rapid rate. Now, moving on to the impact of lockdowns, the whole COVID catastrophe, and we're now seeing a growing number of school children who are becoming paralysed by social anxiety, who are skipping school, falling further behind academically. Even high-achieving students are finding themselves unable to attend regular classes due to anxiety. This is after we had school closures. In Victoria, we had multiple school closures, multiple lockdowns, and the devastating impacts are still being felt with some kids who still cannot go back to school. They've got all sorts of social anxieties, and some have fallen behind so far that they don't want to go to school anymore.
Yes. Well, you know, my first inclination when I heard this was, well, you know, get them back to school. What are you doing, parents? You know, don't cotton wool your kids. But of course, this is really a syndrome now, and I accept that. When you think about the fact that kids from almost early childhood are being told that the world's going to end with, you know, the catastrophizing of climate. And now, of course, the impact of COVID and the, as you say, the isolation, the fact that they haven't had the social interaction, and the anxiety is real. You know, this generation has been really had such a rough time, and you really have to feel for them. But, you know, instead of wasting money on other things, maybe the government needs to find some way of giving parents the kind of financial assistance and medical help to get these kids confident and back out into the world again. You know, it's really quite sad.
And this entire crisis, entirely predictable. We were warning about this as it was happening, that there was going to be so many grave unintended consequences if we kept closing schools, closing down society. But, you know, we were all called granny killers at the time. Now, let's move on to some US news. About a week or so ago, we had that footage of Trump getting huge cheers as he entered Madison Square Garden for a UFC event. And it's happened again, this time down at in South Carolina at a football game. But guess how the media reported that response? Newsweek said former President Donald Trump was met with loud boos as he arrived at Williams-Brice Stadium in South Carolina on Saturday. Now, I looked for other footage to see and hear the reaction, and I've got to tell you, no matter what I looked at, all I could hear was cheering, not boos. Prue, I doubt very much. In fact, I know for sure President Joe Biden wouldn't be getting that sort of reaction, and certainly not in South Carolina.
No, that's for sure. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because most politicians tend to know that irrespective, they're going to get booed. So it just shows you the level of support for Trump. And it's hilarious that the media, you know, they're following that policy of, you know, if you get what you wish for, if you say it often enough, it'll come true. Well, sadly, in this case, it hasn't worked.
Well, they do get away with it, though. I mean, they're increasingly being fact-checked. I love this community notes feature on X, or formerly Twitter, where people can fact-check news organisations, prime ministers, anybody really, and put some context to some of the claims that are being made. Now, I've got some heartwarming footage for you here, Prue. This is an Arab-Israeli major, Fawaz Hussein, is an IDF soldier who was wounded defending a kibbutz on October 7. Here he is walking out of hospital after 44 days of treatment. Just some heartwarming footage at a harrowing time when we're seeing so much heartbreak and devastation. It's good to get a story like that.
Yeah, and rare, isn't it, that something as positive as that about the Israelis is getting some sort of publicity.
Yes, absolutely.